Monster cards in a game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Are highly versatile. Sometimes a monster is just a big, scary thing with claws and teeth, and sometimes a monster is a trap card, or a different kind of hand trap. Sometimes a monster is half a spell or set face down like one, and sometimes a monster is actually a bunch of monsters in a trench coat pretending to be a single card. That last category is what this list of nesting doll monsters is all about. And because I can't think of a better way to start off a list than with a mass extinction event, everyone brace yourself for the number 10 impact of Jurrac Meteor. This level 10 fire dinosaur synchro monster has an appropriately large stat line of 2800 attack and 2000 defense, and released in 2011 as part of a secret rare pool from Hidden Arsenal 4. But wait, you might object, after seeing this number 10 pick for monsters at our group of monsters, isn't that just one big guy? No, TheDuelLogs viewer, Jurrac Meteor is not just one big guy, but the combined form of many, many guys. Jurrac Meteor is the ultimate failsafe of the Jurrac tribe, a group of fire dinosaurs that occupied their own little corner of Yu-Gi-Oh's multi-archetypal dual terminal world. As it happens, this world has a bad habit of getting invaded by apocalyptic threats like the alien worms, the corrosive evil swarm, and also the devious fable. This order of fiends and beasts would emerge from their underground fabled realm to wreak havoc on the aftermath of the worm's final assault, and the Jurrac dinos were some of their first targets. Though ferocious, the Jurrac struggled to combat fabled numbers and cunning, and seeing the writing on the wall, many surviving dinos merged their flames into one giant Jurrac meteor aimed at their own nest. Falling rapidly from the sky, the Jurrac impact would incinerate the lingering fabled and many remaining Jurrac. From the destruction, hope would rekindle in the form of the Neo Flame Veil, a new archetype born from the burning souls of the departed. Still, the meteor impact seemed to be the conclusive end of the Jurrac for a long time. On field, Jurrac Meteor has an effect to complete its earth-shattering role in the lore. On synchro summon, Jurrac Meteor destroys all cards on the field, after which you can revive one tuner monster from your graveyard. It's notable that Meteor's revive effect is not archetype locked, meaning you can revive any tuner you like, opening up some weird but cool plays. Use Foolish Burial to dump a Bird of Paradise Lost for a Jurrac Meteor revival your opponent simply won't be able to anticipate. The lack of limitations on its revival effect also makes sense for lore reasons, since the entities to rise from the ashes after the Jurrac impact were not in fact the Jurrac, but something new. But as good as this all sounds, synchro summoning Jurrac Meteor hasn't always been the easiest move, since it requires a Jurrac tuner and two non-tuner dinosaur monsters. Modern support does make fulfilling the requirements easier, but I'm actually going to talk more about that later down on this list. And speaking of the rest of the list, it's time to move on. As cool as Jurrac Meteor is, it does have to take the bottom spot, because without lore context, it really does look like just one big guy. From over on the hot end of things, we're going to chill a little now as we move across the dual terminal world to the cold, snowy lands, where shock troops of the ice barrier fight wind and sleet to claim the number 9. This level 3 water spellcaster monster from 2010's Hidden Arsenal 3 has 1500 attack, 800 defense, and no proper name or singular position, making it eligible for this list. These shock troops might have decent attack, but they don't often stick around for the battle phase. By attributing this card, you can target one water monster in the field and destroy it to add an ice barrier monster from deck to hand. On the surface, this seems like a solid minus card advantage, since you're losing your shock troops and another monster to search for one. But this isn't always the case. If your opponent controls a water monster, you can destroy their card instead to power your search, making this play a little stronger. While shock troops of the ice barrier hasn't seen a large degree of competitive play, they did see some inclusions as an anti-meta tech in the side deck to counter the wave of powerful water strategies that crashed over the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG around 2015, including mermails, Atlanteans, and frogs. But despite its search abilities, the ice barrier shock troops have trouble configuring themselves into their own strategy. But they weren't unique in this way. As one of the game's earliest archetypes, the ice barriers would struggle with their own identity and playstyle for many years. And though there are almost 50 ice barrier cards, most have never seen any play at all, making shock troops one of their historically better performing options. And mustering in the number 8 spot is Yu-Gi-Oh's own multi-crew of thieves, the Dark Scorpion Burglars. A level 4 Dark Warrior with 1000 attack and defense, this card from 2003 set Pharaonic Guardian predates all other Dark Scorpion cards except Don Zalug, who released alongside the Burglars as part of the same set. And Don Zalug is, of course, not technically a Dark Scorpion card, but instead a related card that enables some of their support, including the mass summoning effect of Mustering of the Dark Scorpions and the Dark Scorpion Tragedy of Love board clear that you can activate in Duel Links, but not in the TCG. since the card hasn't been printed yet. Still, Dark Scorpion's Burglars gave a preview of the cards to come, since each member shown in this aggregated monster would get their own exclusive card in time, with Dark Scorpion Cliff the Trap Remover arriving in Magician's Force set from the same year. A couple months later, Dark Scorpion Chick the Yellow, Manai the Thorn, and Gorg the Strong printed with Dark Crisis. But let's talk effects. When Dark Scorpion Burglars inflicts battle damage to your opponent's life points, your opponent is forced to send one spell from their deck to the graveyard. In the modern game of powerful graveyard effects, this is more beneficial than a penalty, which is doubly unfortunate because many of the effects of the singular Scorpion cards double down on milling your opponent's deck. Now, let's get even more unfortunate. Dark Scorpion's Burglar is a Dark Scorpion combination that's somehow way worse. That's not just the sum of its individual parts, but just those individual parts alone. Although all of the Dark Scorpions would appear as characters in episode 39 of the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, their combined card Dark Scorpion's Burglars would not. In fact, the only noteworthy appearance of Dark Scorpion Burglars in any Yu-Gi-Oh! Property comes from the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Tag Force 3 game for the PlayStation Portable, where the character Don Zalug includes this card as part of his deck. And at number 7, we have the Harpie Lady Sisters, an alluring trio of Wing Beast female fatales grouped together in one level 6 wind attribute card with 1950 attack and 2000 defense. First released into the TCG with the 2002 set Metal Raiders, Harpie Lady Sisters is a tricky boss monster to work with. Not only does it have less than 2000 attack, but it can't be normal summoned or set. Even trickier, Harpie Lady Sisters can't be special summoned unless you brought it out first under the proper conditions. This means that if you discard Sisters from hand, there's no easy way to fish it out of the grave. To summon the Sisters the way Ra intended, you must activate a copy of the normal spell Elegant Egotist while you control one of the many Harpie Ladies. Doing this lets you summon Harpie Lady Sisters or another Harpie Lady from deck. Critically, Elegant Egotist doesn't summon from hand, so you pretty much never want to hold a copy of Harpie Lady Sisters. Cards that ignore summoning conditions like a wild monster appears can still bring them out, but at this point we're investing a lot of resources into fielding a card that's just not that good. The Harpies in general, of course, are a fine deck. Powerful cards like Harpie's Featherstorm, Harpie's Hunting Ground, and Harpie's Feather Roost provide board-breaking potential, interruption, and draw power. Normal monster synergy opens up options like Unexpected Die and the Primites. But although the idea of Harpie Lady Sisters is that a card is 3 Harpie Ladies, there's a lot more you can do with 3 level 4 generic materials than is possible with 1 level 6 that can barely have more attack than your low-level Harpies. That's basically the idea behind Harpie Lady Elegance, a trap that lets you trade a Harpie Lady Sisters you control for 3 level 4 Harpie Lady monsters, one from hand, deck, and graveyard. While this is a great effect, if you can pull it off, it's not the most reliable even if you can field Harpie Lady Sisters, since it requires both grave and hand setup. There's also Triangle Ecstasy Spark, a card that works exclusively with Harpie Lady Sisters, bumping their attack up to 2700 for the rest of the turn, while locking your opponent out of trap effects. But since it's a normal spell, it's also very slow and hard to work with. While Harpie Lady Sisters are kind of a flop on the field, they do have some really nice features in the Duel Monsters anime. As the original ace monster of My Valentine, we first saw the Harpie Lady Sisters hunting Joan Wheeler's Landlocked Warrior monsters in episode 6, and this card would remain a staple of her battle strategy throughout the seasons to come. During her episode 30 duel against Yamayugi in the Duelist Kingdom quarterfinals, Mai actually surrenders once Yugi has game so she doesn't have to watch her beloved Harpies get chopped by Blackluster Soldier. The sisters feature again in episode 45 during the legendary Heroes of Virtual World arc, where they provide aerial transport to Yugi's Dark Magician and Joey's Galatea the Dark Knight as the group flies towards the giant castle of Dark Illusions in the sky. She uses Harpie Lady Sisters again against John Clad Magnum in episode 80 and against Yami Merrick in episode 91, where she would sacrifice all 3 in an attempt to summon the copy of the Winged Dragon of Ra that she stole from the graveyard with the effect of Amazon's Chainmaster. It's worth noting that in the anime, Harpie Lady Sisters is both 1 monster and 3 monsters. Each sister gets her own attack, and the group together count as a valid offering for the tribute summon of an Egyptian god. Mai would employ the sisters' multiple attacks against Joey Wheeler in episode 173, but was unable to make herself call the final strike, since doing so would cause Joey's soul to fall prey to the Seal of Orichalcos. But her restraint didn't matter in the end. Exhausted from his earlier duel with Valon, Joey passed out. Unable to perform his turn, the Orichalcos claimed his soul. In Rush Duels, the Harpie Lady Sisters were adapted into a Maxx monster, a combination creature of 3 parts that can be instantly summoned once you've assembled the components in your hand. By holding Harpie Lady Sisters, Harpie Lady Sisters L, and Harpie Lady Sisters R, you can summon this card as a maximum monster with 3400 attack, and the effects of all 3 individual cards. The center sister can shuffle 2 Wing Beast monsters from grave to deck to increase the attack of a monster by 500. And if she's in maximum mode, inflict 500 points of direct damage. The right side sister provides immunity to destruction by monster effects, and if she's in maximum mode, enables the combination creature to declare attacks on monsters up to 3 times in a single turn. The left sister extends immunity to destruction by trap effects, and increases the combined monsters level by 5 while in maximum mode. While Rush Duels don't yet have an English TCG at time of writing the script, they can be played in Duel Links where you can maximum summon your Harpie Lady Sisters. Also in Duel Links, if you summon the regular Harpie Lady Sisters while playing as My Valentine, you get an Ace Monster summoning animation. While their cut-in is definitely seen less than commonly used cards like Dark Magician, Blue Eyes White Dragon, and Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon, Harpie Lady Sisters did see some experimentation in early Harpie Swarm strategies utilizing My Valentine's Harpie's Hunting Ground skill. But that was early days. Harpie Ladies would become a huge meta contender again with the introduction of the consistency cards like Harpie Perfumer and Swallow's Nest, plus a great new boss monster in Cyber/Harpie Lady. But Harpie Lady Sisters wouldn't receive niche tinkering in even the most off-modern kilter Harpie strats. Coming together at number 6 is United Resistance, a level 3 wind attribute thunder type card with 1000 attack and 400 defense. Releasing in the 2003 set Magician's Force, this normal monster might seem unimpressive, but one should never underestimate the collective will of the downtrodden. United Resistance is the 3rd card in a series of monsters that are technically groups of monsters. First, we have Oppressed People, a level 1 Water Aqua with 400 attack and 2000 defense. Then we have People Running About, a level 2 Fire Pyro with 600 attack and defense. Next comes United Resistance, and when all 3 are on their field, they pool their hearts and resources to enable the Huge Revolution, a normal trap that destroys every card in your opponent's field and sends their entire hand to the grave. A clear reference to the cycles of oppression and uprising that permeates every corner of human history. The timeline of oppressed to agitated to people united that insist upon their rights is a classic tale. It doesn't matter how seemingly powerful is the upper hand of the opposition. Here's an illustrative hypothetical. Even when oppressed people running about, United Resistance stares down a full board that threatens with the combined might of the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, 5-Headed Dragon, Ra, Tiara, VFD, Demiurgy, the United Resistance still wins. None of these cards can stop the Huge Revolution. Individual power lives and dies, sometimes suddenly with its holder. Its solidity is an illusion, for it does not last. No matter how vicious and passionate the tyrant is in his tirades, throws, tantrums, temper, and tummy aches, he is just one man, while the people running about are many and united. When the tyrant passes, the people live on, and it is the people who keep each other safe and build a better world for themselves and each other. And like Harpie Lady Sisters, United Resistance was adapted for Rush Duels. Meet United Resist Ants. While they only have 1 level, 100 attack and 400 defense, they do have some very fun card art that mimics the blocking of the original United Resistance while transforming all of the shown people into cute little ants. This is basically a Bug's Life but Yu-Gi-Oh! And sallying forth into number 5 are the Noble Knight Brothers, a level 4 light warrior monster with the impressive stat line of 1200 attack and 2400 defense. Releasing into the TCG as part of the 2014 set Primal Origin, the brothers also feature in the artwork of the field spell Noble Knights of the Round Table from this same set, but we'll get into that in a minute. 2400 is a premium defense value amongst low-level monsters. Often, when low levels have uncommonly high stats, they have some kind of trade-off. Just look at Big Shield Gardna. For the Noble Knight Brothers, their main drawback is that they can only attack while you control exactly 3 Noble Knight monsters. No more and no less. So yeah, this card is pretty good. That's a strong defensive set for basically no relevant penalty. Of course, by 2014, this state of the game had advanced beyond just setting low-level defensive walls and passing, but the Noble Knight Brothers are more than good defenders. When they're normal summoned, you can special summon up to 2 Noble Knight monsters from your hand, at the cost of locking you to special summons into only Noble Knights for the rest of the turn. On top of this, the brothers also have a once per turn ignition effect to shovel back 3 Noble Knights and or arms from grave to draw a card. For their swarm ability, recycling potential, and draw power, Noble Knights Brothers saw a respectable amount of played Noble Knight strategies in the years following their release. Although usage would eventually wane by present day, they're still a really decent card. And like many other members of the Noble Arms verse, they take inspiration from actual figures of Arthurian legend. The field spell, Noble Knights of the Round Table, depicts many members of Yu-Gi-Oh's Court of Camelot. The 3 knights of this monster sit between Noble Knights Gawain and Madron, which gives us some clues to their identity. Gawain is a clear adaptation of Sir Gawain, who was the nephew of King Arthur and one of the most prominent knights. Medrawd is the Welsh name for Mordred, and in many branches of legend, the illegitimate son of Arthur and therefore half-brother to Gawain. He's most famous for mortally wounding Arthur in battle that leads to the passing of both knights, and this effect is represented by Noble Knight Medrawd's attribute, shifting from light to dark when it's equipped with one of the noble arms. So, who are the trio of Noble Knight brothers, and what are the relations to Gawain and Medrawd? They are likely the Yu-Gi-Oh adaptation of Sir Argavain, Gaheris, and Gareth, brothers to Sir Gawain and half-brothers to Sir Mordred. This is one explanation for why the Noble Knight brothers wear gold armor and a same color sash as Noble Knight Gawain, while Noble Knight Mordred wears silver armor and a red sash, embodiment of the brothers' more distant relation to him. And sentenced to wander until they reach number 4 spot on this list is Exiled Force, a level 4 Earth Warrior from the 2003 set Legacy of Darkness with 1000 attack and defense. While they don't have many stat points, Exiled Force is still a powerful on-field threat. Able to attribute itself to target and destroy a monster on field, it was an excellent answer to many boss monsters in 2003 and saw competitive experimentation as late as 2020. Exiled Force demonstrates a key trend of Yu-Gi-Oh! While some cards are powerful because of how complicated their effects are, others find strength in simplicity. Back in 2003, Exiled Force was powerful enough to catch a Limit 1 designation on the July ban list. This was high unfortunate for the card because restrictions wouldn't ease until late 2006. Finally dropping altogether in early 2007. Exiled Force remains locked at 1 for GOAT format. This was necessary because of just how powerful the card was for that stage of the game. Exiled Force offered almost unblockable removal of a single threat, and while it technically goes equal in card advantage, that's only if you don't count the resources your opponent probably expended to produce their threats. Because it tributes itself as a cost, Exiled Force can still activate under skill drain from the safety of the graveyard. And let's say your opponent is waiting for a set Book of Moon to stop your Exiled Force. In the modern game, this would work. But during Exiled Force's heyday, rules of priority worked a little differently. In the modern game, after a chain has finished resolving, the turn player has the opportunity to start a new chain with a quick effect before your opponent. In 2003, this opportunity extended also to ignition effects. This means that unless your opponent could negate the summon of Exiled Force with a card like Solemn Judgment, you would get the chance to activate the ignition effect of Exiled Force before your opponent could respond with defensive cards like Book of Moon or Trap Hole. This made Exiled Force that much harder to block and well earned its exile to limited status. Exiled Force was so popular that it would even receive 2 retrains, Missing Force and Nomadic Force, as well as a barely discernible artwork feature in the 5D's Tag Force 6 exclusive trap, Destruction Trigger. Missing and Nomadic Force seem to show the tragic backstory of Exiled Force. Starting with Missing Force, the unit appears a mix of nonchalant and stressed out. By the time you reach Nomadic Force, they look a little bit more menacing. Finishing with Exiled Force, the gang appears quite sinister, which is fitting. When Exiled Force hits the field, someone is taking a one-way trip to the graveyard. The armies of Atlantis are poised to strike against the inhabitants of Fire King Island, and among their ranks we find this list number 3 pick, Atlantean Dragoons. First printed as a super rare in 2012's structure deck Realm of the Sea Emperor, the Atlantean Dragoons are level 4 water sea serpents with 1800 attack and 0 defense. These elite Atlanteans perform an important function for the Atlantean army, which actually includes many monsters that are groups of monsters. Their history and the critical nature of their assignment within the deck are what single out Dragoons as the Atlantean representative for this list. When sent to the graveyard to activate the effect of a water monster, Atlantean Dragoons can search any sea serpent monster from your deck and add it to your hand. This is obviously good, and even better when you consider its synergies with many mermail monsters that discard water monsters to special summon themselves from hand. By discarding Atlantean Dragoons and another water monster to summon Mermail Abyss Megalo, you could get to search any sea serpent and an abyss spell or trap, making Megalo a high-level special summon that goes neutral at card advantage. By doing the same thing for Mermail Abysstis, who only requires 1 discard, you get Dragoon Search and any low-level Mermail. Atlantean Dragoons actually follows a few earlier Atlantean army cards that also access their effects when sent to the graveyard for the activation of a water monster. Atlantean Heavy Infantry and Atlantean Marksman can destroy a face-up and set card, respectively. Mermail Shadow Squad, a level 3 water sea serpent with 0 attack and 1900 defense from 2024's Rage of the Abyss, iterates on the Dragoons by summoning a low-level Mermail or Atlantean from deck. So yeah, Atlantean Dragoons are pretty good, and have seen a ton of competitive play since their release. And we haven't even talked about their passive effect. While you control Atlantean Dragoons, All level 3 or lower Sea Serpent monsters you control can attack your opponent directly. This is a nice effect and works well with Atlantean Attack Squad, a level 3 Water Sea Serpent with 1400 attack that gains another 800 while you control another fish, aqua, or sea serpent, like Atlantean Dragoons. Combined with a legendary ocean to reduce the levels of your water monsters, Atlantean Dragoons can even enable itself to attack directly. Appearing in the card artwork for Call of the Atlanteans and a High Tide on Fire Island, it's no surprise that Atlantean Dragoons appears on this list as well. Periplaneta fuliginosa is the Latin name for the smoky brown cockroach commonly found in urban residences and also in almost every deck in Master Duel for a long time. Yep, the infamous level 2 Earth Insect hand trap Maxx C is this list's number 2 pick. First releasing in the TCG with the 2011 set Storm of Ragnarok, Maxx C has 500 attack and 200 defense on the field, but those numbers really don't matter because the card is almost never actually summoned. As a quick effect, during either turn, you can send Maxx C from hand to grave. For the rest of that turn, you get to draw every time your opponent special summons. It's like all the Molcharmies rolled into one. Or rather, all the Molcharmies are just worse versions of Maxx C. After release, Maxx C was legal at 3 copies for a few years, but the tide would shift starting with around the August 2016 ban list, which knocked Maxx C down to 2. The next list in March of 2017 would amend this designation to 1, and Maxx C was finally banned outright in February of 2018, where, as of script, it has lived ever since. Still, during the span in which it was playable, Maxx C saw more competitive play in a single month than most Yu-Gi-Oh cards see in their entire lifetime. Usage peaked in March of 2017, when Maxx C scored 336 placements, barely outperforming May of 2014's previous high spike of 330. Originally designed to counter summon happy decks like Legendary 6 Samurais and X-Sabers, the impact of Maxx C would quickly spread beyond just a few specific areas, much like a real roach infestation. And the infestation of the house pictured in Maxx C is dire. There are more C cards in the series, including Shiny Black C, Flying C, Retaliating C, Confronting C, Contact C, and Sneaky C. Counting all the little eyes that glint in the dark of Maxx C's card art, there are 19 different roaches that we can see. With Maxx C's repeating draw effect and the broader narrative of how suffocating with C, we can only assume that this card in fact contains thousands more hidden in the shadows. The bugs we sense are just the surface. And hatching into this list number 1 spot is Jurrac Megalo. I started this list with Jurrac Meteor, a level 10 fire dino synchro monster that seemed to embody the doom of the Jurrac tribe. And now we end this list with Jurrac's new beginning. Jurrac Megalo is a level 1 fire dinosaur with 500 attack and 1300 defense that was released in the OCG in the November of 2024 alongside the newer Jurrac cards, Jurrac Volcano, Jurrac Stego, and Jurrac Astro. While none of these cards released in the TCG by the time this script was written, they've probably been at least announced by the time you're watching this. So hop into the comments and let me know. If there's another dino in your field, you can special summon Jurrac Megalo from your hand, making it both a tuner and an extender, which are the best kind. When Megalo is destroyed, you can dump a Jurrac from your deck or extra deck to the grave. And the new Jurrac Astro is a good target, since you can banish it and another grave-bound Jurrac monster to cheat Jurrac Meteor out of your extra deck. Because this is both a quick effect that activates during your opponent's turn and treated as a synchro summon, Meteor does get its board clear as interruption during your opponent's turn. But we're not done with Jurrac Megalo yet. It has an ignition effect during the main phase to draw 2 cards in exchange for discarding 2 cards, including another Jurrac. This is obviously good as it allows you to fill your graveyard while picking up more Jurrac cards and potentially helpful non-engine. The other new low-level Jurrac, Jurrac Stego, has fantastic synergies with Jurrac Megalo. During the main phase, Stego can destroy a card you control to send a dinosaur from your deck to the grave, and then special summon any number of Jurrac monsters from your hand or deck, whose levels add up to the dumped dino. If Stego tributes itself, you can Foolish Burial the level 10 Ultimate Conductor Tyranno to summon Jurracs Megalo, Hera, and Terra as one example. These monsters are all the requirements you need to synchro into Jurrac Meteor. If you use Stego for your normal summon and then extend it to Megalo, you can have Stego destroy Megalo instead, allowing you to send Jurrac Astro from your extra deck to the grave, priming a second Jurrac Meteor for your opponent's turn. But what really sets Jurrac Megalo apart as the easy number 1 pick for this list are what these little dinos represent. There haven't been new Jurrac cards in over a decade. For years and years, the Jurrac nests have smoldered empty in the fallout of the Fabled and the meteor that fell on them. But even dead embers can hold hidden heat, and under the right conditions, reignite. With the eruption of Jurrac Volcano, the fire dinos flourish once again. Alright, and that's the list. But there are more monsters that are actually groups of monsters pretended to be a single monster.